So let me get this straight. We're supposed to go out, meet the one, be with only them for 40 odd, 50 odd, 60 odd years, love them more than life itself. But if they slip up one more time and hook up with somebody else, we're supposed to end it. Now, for a lot of people, that's an unrealistic and unsustainable model and a very daunting prospect. And that's why I put to you today that we should, as a culture, work to normalize ethical non-monogamy. Now, there are a few reasons for this. First, it's far more common than people might think. It provides an alternative to a relationship model that is, for a lot of people, unsustainable. And there are easy, subtle cultural ways in which we can normalize it. Now, what is ethical non-monogamy? Ethical non-monogamy is, simply put, a relationship where the people involved do not practice sexual monogamy, but all parties involved consent to this model. Now, it can take a lot of forms. It can take a couple that occasionally play outside the bonds of monogamy, what Dan Savage calls monogamish. It can be swinging. It can be to polyamory, through to triads, quads. It can take a variety of forms. But it is important to note that it is not cheating. Cheating and ethical non-monogamy are two very different things. Now, it's a lot more common than we may think. A 2019 study published by the National Center for Sexual Freedom found that 28% of respondents aged 25 and above had engaged in an ethically non-monogamous relationship at some point. A 2019 CBS News report estimated that 4 to 5% of adults in the U.S. are currently involved in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. Now, this is roughly equal to the amount of people who identify as LGBTQ. And it's not just young liberal city dwellers doing this either. The people involved in ethically non-monogamous relationships across the U.S. represent a full cross-section of the American population. And a 2019 YouGov survey found that only 49% of people 35 and under reported that their ideal relationship would be completely monogamous. Now, ethical non-monogamy, of course, provides an alternative to an established model. Now, people have been ingrained with the monogamy model, but for so many, it's not sustainable. Now, I don't intend this to dump on monogamy. If you believe in monogamy, practice monogamy. But if you don't, there are alternatives. And ethical non-monogamy provides a way to remove the constraints of monogamy without hurting someone you love or the shame of cheating on. And an important thing, too, is that the idea of ethical non-monogamy is it emphasizes consent. The National Alliance for Sexual Health found in 2018 that instances of sexual violence in ethical non-monogamy relationships were 38% lower than in monogamous relationships. And a good friend of mine, Dr. Belinda Berry, who heads the Allegheny County Health Department's Bureau of Sexual Health and Testing, sent me 3 years' worth of data showing that 91% of people who checked the box marked no on the question, are you and your partner sexually monogamous, engaged in regular STI testing. Now, this is regular as in 2 times a year or more. So ethical non-monogamy encourages better sexual health practices. Now, there are also ways culturally in which we can normalize ethical non-monogamy. First, portrayals in the media. Media can portray ethically non-monogamous relationships as something normal, not something that's an outlier. By just having a TV show where some of the characters are involved in an ethically non-monogamous relationship without making it a big deal is entirely possible. Your portrayals in the media of ethical non-monogamy don't have to be a documentary where we go, look at this, isn't this unusual? The next step is people in ethically non-monogamous relationships living truthfully and openly. There is still a cultural stigma attached to being in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. But if people who are ethically non-monogamous stand up and say, this is me, this is the truth of my life, then I believe it can be more normalized. And while it's far too complicated to go into detail in this presentation, changes to the tax laws, marriage laws, divorce laws may be involved. 17 states in the Union still have criminally outlawed adultery. They still have adultery laws on the books that criminalize sex outside of marriage. If we move to update the legal system, move it into the 21st century, then I believe normalization of non-monogamy can go on. Now, there are a lot of people who would argue against the normalization of non-monogamy. They have religious objections. They find it a hard thing to explain to children. They have concerns about raising children in an ethically non-monogamous environment. They see there are issues of sexual health, and a lot of people, they find it just a bit icky. But I believe that by normalizing ethical non-monogamy, because it's more common than we may think, it provides an alternative to an unsustainable model for so many people, and we can do it fairly easily. We can have a more just, more open society. In the last century, we have made huge gains towards ideas such as interracial marriage, LGBTQ rights, all these cultural gains. This should just be another one of them. So I encourage you all to think about this with an open mind and consider the good that it can do for a lot of people, because you probably know somebody who is ethically non-monogamous. Now, I mentioned living truthfully and openly as being a key part of normalizing ethical non-monogamy. So, my name is Rob, and for the last 4.5 years, I've been in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. It's true. Now, I won't bore you with all the details here, but I encourage you to ask questions. I will, within the bounds of good taste, provide answers, because part of normalizing this is asking the questions and giving truthful answers. Thank you very much.